Hey folks, this is your host, the one, the only, Thrifty Gamer 83 here, bringing you my review of Final Fantasy VII. What can I really say wrong about Final Fantasy VII? The storyline is deep and engrossing, the characters are memorable, the sense of humor in the dystopian landscape is like an Irish fairy tale. There really is no happy ending at the beginning of Final Fantasy VII. What you will see is just a dystopian future. You are immersed in this world. It's a beautiful game. It's stunning in the brutality of not only its characters, but in the directions of the heroes. And the heroes really could just be proper anti-heroes in the thematic sense of where they are positioned and what they are doing as part of the terrorist group Avalanche. And really, in the beginning, that is the concrete setup of the game. You're neither good and you're neither bad. It just tests you to examine the character which you play as. And largely, you play as Cloud Strife, of course, the spiky-haired, super-deformed ne'er-do-well of the group, Barrett, as well as a proxy leader, but who usually takes a back seat, really, to Cloud. That is where Barrett is. He's a background character in that sense. He doesn't really have a personality for leadership. He leans upon Cloud as Cloud leans upon him. And the other aspect that you use for characters is a triangle between Cloud, between Tifa, and between later on when you meet Ares. And that is where the game has such a deep woven storyline in the relationship and romantic parallels and interests between Cloud, Tifa, and Ares. Of course, you also get more vulgar characters along the way. If that is possible, they're actually more vulgar than Barrett, such as Sid, the hard-drinking, the hard-drinking, profanity-laced anti-hero who knows his way around airships. And that's just a returning Sid-style character. I rather do enjoy Final Fantasy VII. To me, it was that moment when games stopped being what I would view as a childhood fantasy and became more of a young adult teenage interest. It hooked me on the fact of CD games. That was brand new and impressive, and my older brother Billy really got me into Final Fantasy VII because at that time I was just playing Final Fantasy VI and still discovering all the secrets within games like Chrono Trigger. But the PlayStation opened up doors which the Super Nintendo just couldn't compete against. I remember my father looking one up on the internet and saying, well, I'm going to get this for you for Christmas, but please, just let me watch you play the games because I like watching the games. And it was just the finesse and the thematic elements that built these game engines, and that really cleverly it brought people into just such a sense of liking how the games were engineered and how they were created and how you could just have someone that would sit back and watch you play. It was one of those games. You could sit back and watch someone play. You could really get a sense for it. You could feel well, this is a deep and involving game. And on the flip side, for traditional elements, you also had grinding and conversing with characters once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, however long it took to actively have you engaged in the game. Now, the grinding is something which actually was fun. Once you got past some of the more basic elements, you also had limit breaks, which greatly enhanced the combat system. And for me, coming from Final Fantasy VI over to Final Fantasy VII, yes, I know, Final Fantasy III in the States was actually Final Fantasy VI, but having gotten to see Final Fantasy VII after years of Super Nintendo games such as Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, and Illusion of Gaia, it was a turning point for me. It was a point where I said, well, I have Final Fantasy IV and I have Final Fantasy VI, but I'm seeing what this new impressive CD technology can do for the PlayStation. I was just floored by it. It was so amazing. I couldn't believe how realistic the graphics were. And that isn't just one game like Resident Evil 2 for me. That turning point alone was Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was the game that made me want to get out and really, really enjoy this new lifelike medium with CD-ROMs. It opened my eyes to how far cartridges were having just a death sentence upon them and could never really come back nor compete. And you can see it in the exquisite detail. You can see it in how often Final Fantasy VII just really was the labor of love which the community needed. It took elements from past titles, although what's missing is what's missing really would be an incomplete feature such as a job system. I'm not even going to try to say it because of my main accent, and yeah, I'd get tongue-tied, but you really didn't need a job system. You had the materia system to determine what you would use. And so, on top of having the job system, as you can see, I'm just in this combat system, it would be inconsequential. There we go, I got it now. To have the job system, because really the materia system is there to pick it up and replace it. And the simplistic nature of equipment only having 3 slots really puts not a damper on things, but it makes you think and improvise on situations where you say you might need more materia slots, you might need something like an all magic booster, but they can only be used so often for the entire party. And then you have to strategize your way in the battle. Alright folks, rant, rave, love, hate, click that subscribe button. You're keeping my show on the air. Have a good one.